How you doing, folks? We are joined by the co-chairs of the Community Preservation Commission. They are Catherine Schlichte and Barbara Silberman. Thanks for joining us, ladies.
A pleasure.
Nice to be here.
Okay, right off the top, can you explain what the CPC is and its role in the community?
Sure. So the Community Preservation Act was approved by the voters of Gloucester in November 2008. And it was an agreement to apply a 1% surcharge on all of our residential real estate taxes. And that money is matched somewhat by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And annually, we probably get about $700,000. And that the committee meets to review applications for funding in 4 categories: historic preservation, community housing, open space, and recreation. So that's the 4 categories that it's restricted to. And that's it in a nutshell.
So can you describe some of the well, you guys have been on the commission for 3 years now, is that right?
6. We've been on for 6. We served 2 terms.
Okay, and we'll get into the fact that your chair is actually expiring. We'll get into that later. But tell us about some of the really important projects that you've enjoyed funding and supporting over the years.
Well, I would say that there's probably the biggest category of requests is for historic preservation. But we've preserved some land tracts with funding. We've done a lot of building construction. We've provided some funding for the Harbor Lights project that's going up where Cameron's was. We've provided funding for the Sargent House to repair their steps and their porch. At Beauport, there were a number of projects there having to do with basically keeping the water out of their windows, and also they have another additional outbuilding that needed a new roof and was used for programming. So let's see, I'm just trying to think across. We've given some funding to the Y for their new project. We've done some affordable housing on Maria Street. And I think was that 6 units, Catherine? 8 units? I think it was 6 units.
6, that was one time.
So it's a variety of things. We funded a lot of improvements at Burnham Field, and then we funded a lot of improvements at Mattis Field. So it's a whole variety of things. And we get probably 10, 12 applications each round. A round lasts about a year. And, I would say that the majority of the requests that we get are funded.
Yeah. I think one of the probably more visible projects that everyone's seen is City Hall. Like that was one of the first projects funded, and that did the roofs and the, painting and all the trim work and the restoration to City Hall. One of the more fun ones I think we had, Bob, was you will see a new field hockey arena up at Stage Fort Park where the basketball courts are next to the dog park. They applied last year for funding and received it, and they're going to build a outdoor, street hockey.
Street hockey, not field hockey.
Field hockey, street hockey. Yeah. So that'll be fun.
We and right next to that, we funded the tennis courts.
Wow. You guys do a lot of good work.
So it's a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So now how does this work now? People are applying through you and are
so there's an application that's online. If you go to the city website and you go to the Committee for Preservation, all of the past projects are there with the amounts that we gave them, awarded them. And then the application is on there with the guidelines. So somebody can apply. And then the committee reviews the applications. First, we determine eligibility. Most people are eligible. People are writing these for organizations. Most organizations are eligible. They have to be nonprofit. And then we review those, and we review them several times over the course of maybe 3 or 4 months. And then we determine the priorities, and then we determine whether or not we have enough money to fund the ones that we want to fund, and that usually works out okay. But that we're not the end point. So after that, the applications go to the mayor, and she reviews them, and then they get passed on to the city council budget committee, budget and finance, and then eventually they go to city council for final approval. And as I said, that process takes about a year. From applications usually come in April, and this year awards will probably be made in January. And part of that, this year we're a little late because of COVID. The legislature was behind, so we weren't sure how much money we were getting from the state, and but it's just about a month behind.
Yeah, the Community Preservation Committee is just a recommending body. We recommend to the city council for final approval.
And how many people are on the actual committee?
So we have 9 members. There are 4 at-large members. Those are just members in the community. And there is a member appointed from the planning board. One of their members sits from the historical commission. One of their members sits from open space and recreation. One of their members sits, and from the housing authority.
And conservation. And conservation.
And the
Conservation
Commission.
Yeah.
Right, John. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so that's the 9 members. And I think 3 of us, Barb, myself, who are 2 at-large members, are terming out in February, and John Feener, who's sitting for the Conservation Commission, is terming out. But the Conservation Committee will pick their member who is going to sit on the board.
So, so we are looking at 2 empty seats in February, the co-chairs.
Yeah.
And if people are interested in filling them, what should they do?
They should write a letter to the mayor expressing their interest. Probably it would be a good idea to email or call one of us. We'd be happy to talk to them. Our emails are on the city website. And then from there, the mayor would give permission, or, approve or not. Usually, I don't know, she's turned people down much. And then they would become a member of the committee.
And I would just like to give a plug for it, because it's really, I've served in a lot of volunteer capacities throughout the city, and this has been one of the funnest boards I've been on. You really get to see a lot of different organizations that are operating in the city of Gloucester in all of these areas, whether they're running historical projects or they're doing, open space and recreation or housing. You really get to know another side of the city you might not have known before, and you're in a position where you're able to help these organizations out and recommend funding. And so it's it's a really unique committee, I think, amongst all the committees we have, and it's a lot of fun. And we do have fortunate to have good staff support. We do have a staff person who sits with us and does a lot of the heavy lifting for us. So.
But also, you're giving everybody good news. I mean, you're giving
pretty much everybody. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I have been a grant writer for a long time, and I've also worked for a large foundation and made a lot of grants. And I would much prefer to be on this side of the table. It's a lot more fun, and it is really rewarding. And because a lot of people, usually at least one person from each organization, comes and speaks to us to pitch their project, you get to know a lot of people, and you get to know these, some of the places you would not ordinarily find on your own.
What are some of, what would be an appealing project for you to look over? Are there pockets in the neighborhood you're like, oh, we could really help there? Or if you hear of something coming down the pipeline, like you hope they reach out to you? Are there things like that? Or can you make suggestions as well?
I don't think that we usually make suggestions kind of just cold, walk up to some place and say, you look like you need a new roof. Why don't you come to
just some wishful thinking on my part. Could you swing by later on today?
But we certainly take, we sometimes get requests before the applications are filled out, and we'll talk with people about that. The other thing that sometimes happens is that when the application comes in, sometimes the project isn't, the information and the specific project is sometimes not in the right chronological order. So sometimes people will come in and ask for construction money, but they don't have any plans, just as an example.
Yeah.
So, you know, we might guide them. So this time you might want to ask for X, Y, Z. And then, you know, you can always come back for A, B, and C. And we do a fair amount of that because most of the people that come to us are not, you know, professionals, and they're not aware sometimes of needing planning studies of various kinds. And
Yeah,
so
and
we
we
certainly
do-
give advice, and then we, you know, they come back with a much better application. So we really, you know, our goal here is to fund as many applications as possible. It's not to, you know, throw somebody out because they messed up on this particular thing or they have too many typos or something like that.
Yeah, and we
Some
do
funders do.
multi-year funding for projects like this, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Stage Fort Park seems to be one of those projects that's coming up with the pathways and what that they want to do with it. But sometimes we have areas that aren't getting enough applications in it. So of this pot of money that you get, 10% of it has to be sequestered to each of the 4 categories. So for a long time, we didn't have any affordable housing applications coming in, and that account was growing and growing, and no one's coming in asking for funds. So we did really try to put out the word that we're looking for affordable housing applications. And then we got a series of them. Action Inc., the YMCA is pending before us right now for a money for their project on Middle Street and Hancock Street. And we did some emergency funding. You can, for emergency circumstances, come in off cycle. And we recently did off-cycle funding of 100,000, Barb, for Action Inc. for rental assistance, just because of you know, the need now during COVID and whatnot. So there's a little bit of flexibility, and we do try to solicit categories, but I don't know how they would feel if we went and knocked on someone's door and said, hey, I got an idea for you. You'd probably like it.
I don't know if you all remember that very old show about, you know, the millionaire guy would knock on your door and give you the $1 million.
Oh yeah, Publishers Clearinghouse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I would like to ask, were there any CPF funds, other CPF funds made available for COVID relief? You mentioned Action, and were you helping out in other ways?
No, that was really the only project.
Go ahead, sorry, Barb.
That was really the only project, and
that was a big one.
You know, it was big, and they approached us, and we were really happy that we could help. But
and
no.
we can only fund 4 categories, so
Right.
maybe open space and rec might have a need, but I don't know where else we would have had qualified funding. You know,
yeah, right.
I don't see where historic preservation might have a COVID need, or.
No.
And we can't do it for operations. It has to be
No.
capital improvements, or it's kind of limited how you can spend the money.
Mm. So this would come under the affordable housing subject.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and rental assistance is a specific carve out in the statute in community housing category. So we could clearly do that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for your time served. That it sounds like it was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think we enjoyed working with each other and with the committee that we had at the time. It was really fun.
Yeah, got into some really cool places in Gloucester.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate. We have a very rich nonprofit community that helps out in a lot of different areas to enrich our lives. So it's just a very satisfying committee to be on.
And then we want to give a shout out to our staff person, Jamie Corliss, who really has gone above and beyond and does an excellent job with really everything that she
keeps us on track.
Yes, and she keeps us, you know, she keeps our heads above water there.
Great. That's great.
So thanks to her.
Yeah. Now,
Thank you for the opportunity.
Anytime, Kath and Barb. So if people want to learn more about the CPC, how can they do that?
They can go to the city website and get our email addresses and email us.
And also,
or both.
On the city website, on the homepage, there's a Community Preservation Act that talks about that. If you go into the government, there's the Community Preservation Committee, and that has applications and who's on the board. And that has every project we've ever funded is in there.
Gotcha.
So,
Fun. Good
Beautiful.
reading.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for your time, ladies. Happy holidays.
yeah, thank you. Same to you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Bye for
All
now.
right, bye.
Bye-bye.